Hi friends, welcome back to our Leaf Literature. It's taken a bit longer to make this review video than I had initially planned because I realized I needed to be reading the books a month ahead of schedule in order to have enough time to make the review videos. I will still be updating Fable to match the timeline of whenever you guys see these videos, but I will be reading the books in advance, so if you don't want spoilers, don't read my Goodreads reviews. Now let's just dive right in. So for our first book that we read The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery. Now for those that are new here, I did read the summary of this in our previous book club video, so I do encourage you to watch that in order to have some context for this review. Now let's talk about expectations versus reality. So my initial expectation of this book, based on how it portrayed itself and the summary alone, is that it would be about a woman who gets to have close-up, one-on-one experiences with octopuses and learns a lot about them. In turn, while spending time with these octopuses, they would inspire a more inward reflection of herself and humanity as a whole. I expected this to be more emotional, to expand on the human brain in comparison to an octopus one. I expected it to delve into the connection between octopuses and humans. Human to human versus octopus to octopus, all of that. Everything you can think of that really would encapsulate what makes one conscious and have a soul. So now the reality. So yes, the woman did get to have close-up experiences with octopuses. She learns a lot about them. It's a real fact dumper of a book. Love that. Love to learn about a new species. So it did have the human-octopus connection aspect I was looking for. However, it did not really have a strong emotional draw like I had hoped. I feel like the allusions it made to our consciousness and soul were not really there. It felt very surface level. Don't really know why, but I guess I just had hopes that this would be a lot more deep and inspiring than it turned out to be. That's not to say it wasn't a good book. As I said, it had a lot of facts about octopuses, learned a lot about that species, including why we call it octopuses now and not octopi. I just feel like the title is a bit misleading. The Soul of an Octopus, a surprising exploration into the wonders of consciousness. It really wasn't that deep. They really could have just left it at The Soul of an Octopus. Now, I rate my books on a 5-star scale. What does that look like? It's kind of difficult because most of the time I'm rating on entertainment value. So a 1 is usually like really bad, would never recommend it to anybody, probably did not finish it. A 2, it's okay, not really my taste, probably could appeal to some people, probably still would not recommend it, a bore. Now 3 is my in-between. I still consider a recommendable realm, but it's more I'd recommend it to very specific people, and maybe the writing was really good and the author did a great job at professionally getting the book across, but maybe the plot itself was really lacking in luster. Vice versa, maybe the plot was really good, it had a great story, but the writer executed it very poorly. That's a 3-star for me. I like it. Not great, but I like it. 4 stars and up is any book that kept me really wanting to keep reading it. I just sped through it, always looked for time to read it, was excited, genuinely excited to continue reading it, and I'd recommend it. Usually both of the plot and the story writing were really good, but maybe it's just missing that special something to get it to that 5-star level. Damn, all these dogs barking. Now, what is 5 stars to me? 5 stars is anything that leaves a lasting impact on me, something I think about for years to come. A book I will remember for a long time, very memorable, great story, great writing, could recommend it to almost anybody. That's very much for me. Often it's a book that may make me cry. 4 and 5 is kind of where I thought this would be. I thought this would be emotional. I thought it would really be touching and just really inspiring and leave an impact on me. So unfortunately, I think I put this book at a 3. It wasn't bad, but I really wasn't, once I started getting going, I really was not excited to finish it and started to drop off interest about midway through. Basically, the overall plot is not super exciting. It's about this woman getting to experience her time with the different octopuses at this aquarium that she volunteers at. There are different chapters that explain each octopus that she gets to learn about. Some of the segments are a lot more informational about octopuses as a whole, such as their eggs, habitat, how to take care of them. Overall, main plot of the story is just learning about the different octopuses that she gets to spend time with. I think realistically it's really hard to make a book like this super interesting. And sometimes with books that are based on real experiences, sometimes the impact doesn't come across unless you were there. I'm sure this was an amazing feeling for her, and everything she learned was just like very impactful, lifelong. But it's just not something I don't think as a reader I can really feel unless I'm in her shoes. Big takeaways from this book is that octopuses are very intelligent. There's so much to learn about them and the deep sea. They are very interesting creatures, I've always thought that, but I also think that there's a lot more we have left to learn about them. I think they probably are misunderstood. I didn't realize how misunderstood they were until the author compared them to all of other media that portrays octopuses in a negative light. One thing that this book did make me reflect on is I thought about all of these cool experiences she gets to have. How did she even come across the opportunity to get to spend this much time with octopuses at this aquarium? Did she know these people firsthand? Was she just an ordinary volunteer and they just let her come every week? That's what I could not figure out. But she got to spend so much time with these creatures that it feels like I never have come across the opportunity to even get to do in my own life. Something to know about me is I originally went to university for zoology and wildlife, so I had a lot of big dreams about getting to have these kinds of experiences. Maybe not with marine animals specifically, but being close to them in some capacity. And so I made a note here. Sometimes I get sad thinking about what I could have become and what world I could have been a part of. Life hasn't really turned out as expected. I love where I'm at in life, but it did make me think a lot about how cool the life she gets to have is. All these places she gets to go, all these animal experiences she gets to have. It's almost inevitable that something like this would bring up those feelings in me. So I have to say in that regard, it did make me realize how special and of an opportunity it was that she got to do all of this. So I think that she should cherish that, and I'm glad that she decided to share all of her experiences with the world through this book. I think it's probably the closest I will ever get to doing something like this. And in many ways, sometimes I did feel like I was with her and I could understand what she was saying. I feel like this author genuinely cares about this species and animals as a whole, and that really showed through this book. She has a very deep connection with them. Honestly felt like in that way I could definitely relate. As a diehard animal lover myself, I really understood what she was talking about when she explained just how much she felt from these creatures and the impact that she got from them. Another cool thing about the physical copy of this book is it did include pictures of the octopuses that she got to spend time with. The only complaint I would have about this is they were very awkwardly placed in the book. I expected something like this to be at the end, but they were kind of just thrown in the middle, and I'm pretty sure it was thrown in a spot that kind of spoiled what was to come in the story, as far as like which octopus we were going to be meeting next. So beware of that if you pick this up. And you're probably wondering why I have all of these tabs here. While I'm doing this book club, I would like to keep notes of all the things that I'm thinking about along the way, so that way I can upload them to the Fable, and that way I can share them with you guys here. Whenever I annotate books, I usually put at the beginning all of the tabs I plan to use and things I'm going to be looking out for. So many times the topics could be art ideas, favorite quotes, references, fun facts, little comments like, love that, it made me feel something good, or wow, that was interesting, or come on, this is sad and heartbreaking. Now I will say the attachment that these people had to the octopuses felt a little bit uncanny at times. Even as someone who loves animals as much as I do, sometimes it just got a little bit weird, and I'm particularly referring to one part of the book. So I'm going to quote this part by one of the people working at the aquarium. They were talking about a new octopus that they had gotten at the aquarium, and the author says, "What do you think of her?" I asked Wilson. "I think she's almost sexy," he answers. "There's something about her that attracts me to her. How do you describe the feeling?" My straightforward engineer friend sounds positively romantic. "You just see something there," he says dreamily. I think it's more just wording. He could have used a different wording. Obviously that's how it happened, that's how it went down, but I'm sure he didn't mean it the way it came off, but let's just say I would not use that word to describe how I felt. Dreamily was a good way he followed up with that he probably should have started with. Overall, would I recommend this book to someone else? I would say yes. It's a 3, I would recommend it, but I do think it's for a very specific type of person. It can come off a little slow, it can come off a little boring and dry, but if you really want to learn about octopuses, you got a lot of facts here. if you really want to learn about someone else's experience learning about octopuses, you got a lot of facts here. But that's a pretty niche field, don't you think? I think it's also hard because, as I said, my rating is usually on an entertainment value. This is a lot higher on an educational value, but it's not that great when it comes to entertainment. The plot just really isn't as engaging. And I will say at sometimes it did feel like the fun facts and the references that the author threw in were just kind of one after the other and placed in ways that didn't really flow nicely. There wasn't always a reason for them to mention these things. Now the author had a wealth of references they could use to but it just didn't feel natural. Felt like a lot of info dump at times. And especially when they're pulling from just philosophy, sometimes the quotes were just thrown in there to, again, make it seem like it's trying to be deep, but it really just wasn't hitting the mark. It just felt kind of surface level. Would I read this author again? I would say yes, I would. I think that there's a lot of information to be had here. I know that this author, I'm sure, is doing their research especially firsthand, and I think it would be interesting to give her another shot and see if she can write something a little bit more entertaining as well as educational. Now, as for the cover art, it could also do better. So stay tuned for the rest of this video. I will be doing a speed paint of my version of this cover art, and at the end I will be announcing what our next book will be. So stick around. Alrighty guys, that's really all for this review. I hope you enjoyed my take and the alternative cover art. If you have any thoughts on this book, feel free to leave them in the comments below or join us on Fable and follow along. If you stayed this far, you're in luck. I get to announce the next book for our Leaf Literature. We will be reading The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating. I have been wanting to read this one as well for a long time. It's been on my TBR. I saw this one day while walking through Barnes & Noble and I was like, that is just so specific. I have to read it. This is by Elizabeth Tova Bailey, and I'm going to read the summary really quick for you guys. In a work that beautifully demonstrates the rewards of closely observing nature, Elizabeth Tova Bailey shares an inspiring and intimate story of her encounter with a Neohelix albolabrus, a common woodland snail. While an illness keeps her bedridden, Bailey watches a wild snail that has taken up residence on her nightstand. As a result, she discovers the solace and sense of wonder that this mysterious creature brings and comes to a greater understanding of her own place in the world. Intrigued by the snail's molluscan anatomy, cryptic defenses, clear decision-making, hydraulic locomotion, and courtship activities, Bailey becomes an astute and amused observer, offering a candid and engaging look into the curious life of this underappreciated small animal. The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating is a remarkable journey of survival and resilience, showing us how a small part of the natural world can illuminate our own human existence while providing an appreciation of what it means to be fully alive. So I will not be giving any of my thoughts and expectations about this until you see the review next month, but just know that I will be reviewing this whenever I'm done reading it. So I'll probably be making another alternative cover art for it as well. Now, as I said, I will be posting some thoughts along the way in Fable as we go along and read each chapter. You're more than welcome to join that. Link in the description below. Now, in regards to the soul of an octopus, I hope I covered everything. I tried to give all of my genuine thoughts without spoiling anything, but let me know in the comments below if I could do it differently in the future. I'm going to be testing the waters with how I do these reviews, so it might change up a little bit, but you can probably expect it to be something very similar to this. I'll give a very brief explanation of how I felt about it, would I recommend it, all of that fun stuff, and then followed up with an alternative cover art if I felt inspired enough. Remember, you can always suggest cover art ideas in Fable or in my comments as well, and I'll definitely take all into consideration whenever we read these books and when I prepare for the review. Hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next one, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again next time.